Over the past few years, many world records on the road have been broken for running, from the 5K all the way up to the marathon. Now, all of these have in common the Nike Vaporfly lineup. The majority of these world records have been set in this lineup of shoes from Nike, and the majority of elite athletes in the road running scene are choosing to wear the Nike Vaporfly models over any other. So why is this? Let's consider the science behind the shoe. So first off, we will consider the midsole of the shoe, which is this layer here. Hang on, what's that brown stuff? I think it's mud. I hope it's mud. Right. Traditional materials for the midsole include ethylene vinyl acetate, or EVA, and in some cases thermoplastic polyurethane, or TPU. But in the Nike Vaporfly shoes, the Zoom X foam is used, and this is Pebax based, and this is a polyether block amide. Now, all these materials are block copolymers. Typically, a polymer is a repeat unit of a single monomer, but in block copolymers, several monomers are combined. This allows the properties to be tuned based on the ratio of the monomers used, and this can give multiple functionalities of a single polymer. Now, there are usually 3 steps to a polymerization mechanism. So, first step, initiation. This is where the reactive species is formed and reacts with the first monomer to create a reactive polymer end group. Now, the second step is propagation. This is where the reactive end groups react with more monomers, extending the chains. And then finally we have termination, and this is where something happens that deactivates the reactive end group. So in block copolymers, a living polymerization is typically used to give precisely defined sequences of each monomer. A living polymerization is a type of chain growth mechanism where there is no termination. Now, this will mean the end group of each polymer will keep on reacting with the monomer until all the monomer is consumed. As the rate of initiation is much faster than the rate of propagation, polymer length can be controlled exceptionally well for these living polymerizations, because every initiator starts a new polymer chain at the same time, and this will mean that the polymers can grow smoothly at the same rate. So you can think of polymerization a bit like the snake game, where the snake represents the polymer chain and the food represents the monomer. So as the snake eats the food, it grows in length, same way as the polymer reacts with the monomer, the polymer chain grows in length. Now, in the snake game, this will continue until you either to go back on yourself, or you run out of food. Same thing for polymerization, except that something would happen that would cause it to stop the polymerization. So that would be termination step, for example, or you just run out of monomer. For polymerization of block copolymers, it will be a bit like a modified version of the snake game, where you have foods of different colours, and when the snake eats the food, it gets a band of that is the colour of the food. Now, the snake will then continue to grow until it eventually runs out of food, so you end up with a snake at the end which is multicoloured. So, what is the benefit of using the Pebax based foam over the other foams, as in the case of the Zoom X foam? Well, put it simply, it's lighter and more resilient. So a study was done on the effective energy return of the shoes and the midsoles when subject to compression. So under compression, the Nike Zoom Streak, which is an EVA based midsole, returns 66% of the energy, and the Adidas Adizero Adios, which is TPU based, that returns 76% of the energy. But in the Vaporfly, the midsole returned 87% of the energy, and this will mean it will give back more energy with each stride. By also being a lighter foam, however, this means that more foam can also be added to the shoe without increasing its weight, and this really helps improve efficiency with running. Within the midsole of the vaporflies, there is also a carbon fibre plate. Carbon fibre is usually made from polyacrylonitrile, or PAN, and PAN is made from the free radical polymerization of acrylonitrile. In order to get carbon fibre from PAN, the PAN is heated at a low temperature to cause cyclization. It is then further heated in oxygen to cause hydrogen to be removed. And after this, the process of graphitization starts, removing nitrogen, and the chains are joined to form graphite planes. Now, in a sense, carbon fibre has an almost identical structure to graphite at the atomic level, but the difference in their properties comes from the way the sheets are arranged. In graphite, the sheets lay on top of one another with weak van der Waals forces between the layers, and this allows the layers to slide over each other, making graphite very brittle. But in carbon fibre, the layers interlock and fold, making it much stronger and stiffer. So now, why would you have a carbon fibre plate in the running shoes? Well, first let's consider the Nike Pegasus Turbo, well, a special edition. Don't know why I didn't call this edition the Unicorn Turbo, to be honest, because of the sparkles and the rainbow on. Hey ho. So, with this shoe, it's a very similar structure to the Vaporfly. It has a ZoomX foam in, and it's two midsole layers, but one of the layers is also a React foam. Now, with this shoe, it's quite a fast shoe because it's also quite light. It's quite responsive, as you can understand, because it also has a ZoomX foam in. But it doesn't have a carbon fibre plate in. By having the carbon fibre plate in the shoe, it helps increase the longitudinal stiffness of the shoe, which basically means it won't fold in half like this shoe is doing here. Now, what does that mean? Well, that basically helps stiffen the metapharsophalangeal joint, enabling the toes to do less work, and this also has the effect of also acting like a bit like a lever, enabling the ankles to do less work, which also means that if your feet are having to do less work with each stride, and also you can get slightly longer stride length for the same effort. Since the original 4% have been made, there have been updates to the Vaporflies. The next model being the Vaporfly 4% Flyknit, and this introduced the Flyknit upper to the Vaporflies, and this helped to drop the weight of the shoes. But the Flyknit upper was not very advantageous in wet conditions, as it tended to hold a lot of water. The next model after this was the Vaporfly Next Percents, which featured 15% more ZoomX foam, a slight design change of the shoes, as well as the introduction of a Vaporweave upper. Now, this model, despite having more foam, ended up being lighter than the previous model, partly due to that Vaporweave upper, and this upper was also more water resistant than the Flyknit upper, and as well, the outsole rubber was improved so that you could get more grip in wet conditions, which helped for running faster times, like from the road races in wet conditions. During the Ineos 159 challenge, Eliud Kipchoge wore a prototype of a new shoe similar to the Vaporflies. These were the Alpha Flies. Now, this prototype shoe consisted of 4 air pockets under the forefoot, surrounded by 3 carbon fibre plates. And this could have made him be able to go even faster than his previous sub-2 attempt, which he did in the Nike Vaporfly 4%, the originals. Now, all this new technology may have slightly further improved his efficiency and helped him to actually go under the 2-hour marathon barrier during the Ineos 159 challenge. But needless to say, would he have done it without the shoes? Well, it's out there for debate. And, well, he is a really fast marathon runner, and he's put the hard work and effort in, and the shoes are just basically the icing on the cake. But earlier on this year, World Athletics have changed the rules on the shoes that can be used in competition. They have stated that from the 30th of April 2020, any shoe must have been available for purchase by any athlete on the retail market for a period of 4 months for it to be used in competition. So this would mean that prototype shoes like what Eliud Kipchoge wore for the Ineos 159 challenge are prohibited in competition. Also, the sole must be no thicker than 40 millimeters, and that the shoe must contain no more than 1 rigid embedded plate of any material that runs the full length or part of the length of the shoe. But the plate may also be in more than 1 part, but parts cannot overlap and they must be located sequentially in one plane. So what does this mean? Well, the shoes Kipchoge wore for the Ineos 159 challenge were banned from competition. It also means that running shoe manufacturers need to make the running shoes that their elite athletes want to wear in competition available to the public a good while before these big competitions. Now, these rule changes will hopefully try and make things more fair among the elite fields, as any athlete can have access to the shoes of all the other athletes, which puts a new meaning to putting yourself in someone else's shoes, quite literally. Yeah. So, but Nike have now modified their prototype shoe, the vaporfly, into something that can now be used in competition. So they've added one carbon fibre plate across the whole length, and they have 2 air pockets in the forefoot now instead of 4. And this prototype shoe has gone into production, and it's got a black and green design. Show an image of it. Now, this shoe may provide even faster times on the road than the vaporflies, with the specifically with the AirPods in the forefoot, maybe helping to increase energy return somehow. But like I said before, the athletes still have to put in the hard work in training, and the shoes are just the icing on the cake.